Paladin is the second support in Lostark. If Bard provides stationary buffs like Sonic Wave and provide burst heals, Paladin's kit provides more controlled flow of the fight. If you wish to provide safe, consistent support and sustainability for your team, Paladin is definitely the class you should play as support. However, if you wish to outshine over others with providing critical plays during the fight, Paladin might feel boring to you. If you enjoy strengthening the party's sustain and stabilize the flow of the fight, with keen sense of looking at the big picture, there are no class better than this Giga Chad. Paladin has some limitation of engravings, but has really versatile skill sets. Let's look at engravings by importance first. First engraving. It is mandatory to have Blessed Aura. If you do not have this engraving, your X identity skill does not provide healing. Paladin is amazing due to this long-lasting huge aura and able to provide DOT heals within the zone. Second and third engravings. This splits off into preference between Awakening and Expert, but you'll eventually require both. The difference between them is if you want more efficiency overall of your shields and heals, Expert is your choice. But if you want to increase your number of Awakenings with shorter cooldown, it would be Awakening. Engravings 4th and beyond. These are selected in preference out of these engravings. Heavy armor. Paladin is already a Chad with high vitality point, so going heavy armor is overkill. But if you really wish to not die and be super tanky, you can take this engraving if you want. If heavy armor Paladin dies from a pattern, nobody can probably survive that attack. Vital point. This is usually selected because there aren't many choices in engravings. It makes your Holy Sword a huge stagger machine. Problem is, you'll see the real efficiency during later Legion raids. Spirit Absorption. If you think you lack movement speed to be max 140%, you can take this as a choice and put more combat stats on spec. Since global servers do not have the relic gears yet, it might be a decent choice. Judgment. You can get level 1 of this for maximum efficiency, but this will change your skill set and require a lot of mechanical skills. This is a veteran engraving, only few high skilled paladins go, 5 3s and a 1 engraving final build. Drops of Ether. Another optional engraving where you drop ethers. But as I said on the Bard, people tend to not pick them up, so it might not be good. Match Extreme. Paladins don't usually get hit, so most of my friends take this engraving for massive cooldown boosts. It's also an option. As mentioned above, Paladins really don't have a versatile option in engraving. It's very simple. This is because Paladins usually just require high stiffness and have a bad efficiency in going heavy armor. If you're confused, just take Blessed Aura, Expert, and Awakening. Like Bard, Paladin has 2 combat stat builds. Full spec and full swiftness. Bard's spec build has high difficulty and conditional and is probably not recommended by me, but is still a little bit viable. However, full spec Paladin is definitely a hipster build. Reason why swiftness is a much better combat stat is because spec does not impact your heals, shields, and buffs. However, if you have high swiftness, you can keep your buffs on indefinitely, and heals and shields are provided at a much faster pace. Paladins have problems where skills have high cooldowns. Paladin's greatest strength is where you don't need to go find the party mates to provide shields, and so in terms of buff efficiency, it is generally more better than Bard on average. Therefore, getting your necklace into Spec Swift with rest of accessories into Swift is highly recommended. However, if things are too expensive, maybe putting a ring to Spec is okay because it helps your identity bubble fill. Just make sure to know cooldown is the most important attribute to Paladins. Let's quickly talk about cards. You do not need to worry about cards for support, just like Bard. Just equip Field Boss or Farewell Weapon. More HP you have, more effective your shields and heals become. As for long-term BIS, it's Lost Wind Cliff 30 set, but this requires your DPS party mates to have Light of Salvation, which is highly unlikely for a long time. I don't recommend We'll Meet Again and Silent Giant card set because Paladin already has a high vitality factor. Let's also talk about gems. You focus on getting cooldown gems on all of your 8 skills. You should focus on Holy Protection first, then Wrath of God and Heavenly Blessings. You can freely choose afterwards. Something like Light Shock should be at least priority because cooldown is already short on that skill. Paladins have 2 skill types, Judgment Blue and Blessings Yellow. Blue skills tend to have stagger, counters, and movement utility skills. Yellow skills have buffs, shields, and identity gauge filler skills. Depending on the situation and playstyle, the balance between blue and yellow skills are different per Paladin players. Majority of the Paladin players in Korea play 6 yellow to 2 blue skills or 7 yellow to 1 blue skill. This doesn't mean that that's the best skill set. There are builds like 4 blue and 4 yellow for Paladins who take level 1 Judgment engraving. It is important to understand what each skill does and plan your skill set accordingly based on your playstyle instead of following others. Let's go over the marking skills first. Unlike Bard with the Sound Shock, Paladins have extremely easy marking skills because cooldowns are about the same as the marking buff and debuff last much longer. Let's go over them. First one, Light Shock. Quick 8-second skill that provides marking debuff. It is recommended to take this skill for most beginner Paladins. Level 7 is recommended with quick charge runes. Godsend Law. Great skill with 12-second marking. Has the longest cooldown, but also provides defense boost to allies in the area. Unlike Bard's Rhapsody of Light, it doesn't have super armor. Majority of the high-end paladins use this for main marking skill. Conviction and Judgment rune is used, or Focus rune is used if you don't have enough mana. Sword of Justice. 15-second skill for 10-second marking. Not many use it, but it's an option as well. Level 7 is recommended for the marking tripod with Galewind runes. Holy Explosion. Another option for 12-second marking, but not many use it as well. Level 7 is recommended with Galewind runes. Reason why Sword of Justice and Holy Explosion is not as used as much is because of the long casting time. Now let's go over the buffs. Holy Protection. Your main mandatory shield skill. It also provides cleanse on tripod 2 and healing at the end, tripod 3. If you happen to have expert engraving, you can press this on every cooldown due to the engraving efficiency. If you don't have expert engraving, however, make sure to press this during the fight when teammates are getting damaged to provide shield and heal support. Also note that this is a target skill. You can use it anytime you want. Most uses the Focus rune to decrease mana usage or Galewind. Wrath of God. So paladins have 2 attack buffs that last 8 seconds. You can rotate this skill with Heavenly Blessings. If you have high swiftness, you can provide this attack buff indefinitely. The only thing you need to watch out for is to make sure you hit this skill to the enemy to fill up your identity bubble. Wealth rune is added here, or Focus rune. My personal recommendation is to take Stagger Immunity tripod on the second, because it would suck to get this thing cancelled during the fight. Heavenly Blessings. Paladin's other attack buff skill. Provides attack buff for 8 seconds. You use this with Wealth rune or Focus rune if you have mana problems. On a side note, you have Light of Judgment, which is used for additional identity bubble fillers. Quick cast, additional bubble gain, and number of hits is combined with Wealth rune to fill up decent amount of identity bubble. You also have Holy Area. You can provide additional defense buff on the area you designate. You use Quick Prep and large AoE for maximum effect with Wealth rune for additional bubble gains. Notice I get the defense buff over here if I stand on top of it. Now let's go over the judgment skills. Holy Sword. Paladins have 2 counters, which most classes don't have. Holy Sword is the longest range counter in the game. This counter is very overpowered with generous hitboxes. You can counter from very far places where normal classes cannot. The only disadvantage is the casting time. It's pretty long. So you need to memorize when bosses are getting ready to do their counter. Executor Sword. This is also a decent counter skill with decent stagger and weak point through the second tripod. Punishment. Some people take this with additional stagger. Paladin's holy skills, yellow, have very low stagger. So normally they take blue judgment skills like Holy and Executor Sword to stagger. These blue judgment skills are all head attack skills. Therefore, instead of using a lot of skills on the side of the boss, one right hit of Holy Sword to the head is more efficient in terms of total amount of stagger. Charge. Some paladins take this for mobility skill, with some additional self-shielding at level 7. Flash Thrust. Judgment 1 paladins use this for additional bubble gains. Execution of Justice. This is a super armor skill on level 10 for Judgment 1 paladins. They tend to take this if needed on specific raids. Runes are freely used. This is the super armor tripod. So you're in super armor state while you're casting this skill. To quickly go over the awakenings, you have the light and then you have the judgment. Usually you use the light for chaos dungeons and everyone uses the judgment. Support class should always use the judgment skill. Gameplay is very simple. Make sure the bosses mark the whole time with your skills. Keep marking them with your skills like Light Shock. You rotate your buff skills with Wrath of God and Heavenly Blessings. Make sure you check the buff runs out before casting the other. Whenever your teammate's HP is down, make sure to use Holy Protection to shield and heal them for a short amount. If your identity bubble fills up, you have 2 choices. Just turning on for the 10% damage increase buff. Wait until your teammates are a little damaged to get the heal value of it as well. Paladin is a class that can cleanse very well. What cleanse does is it removes the most recent debuff the player has got. Burning, Fear, Rooting, or all in future Guardian raids like Ingrection and Dark Fox Yoho. Not to mention all future Legion raids have these annoying debuffs as well. But Paladins can easily cleanse them. You can activate your cleanse when you see debuff icons in your party mates. Unless UI options changed, default UI will show all the debuffs easily. The reason why Expert is good because you don't have to worry about when to turn on your Blessed Aura. Because Expert's efficiency will fill up lack of heals with Holy Protection. Make sure not to use Blessed Aura when bosses run away. Blessed Aura lasts a very long time, but it also takes a while to get ready as well. When Blessed Aura is on, your identity bubble will not fill up. Therefore, you should always avoid using your awakening during your blessed aura state. You would use it only on a very emergency situation where your teammate is about to die from a pattern. If bosses run away or want to turn off the blessed aura a little earlier, you can always turn it off by pressing X again. As for your awakening, you must make sure you hit your target with it to get the bubble filled up properly. So this covers the basics of the Paladin's endgame. It is a great Giga Chat support, and I highly recommend to everyone who likes to play support. Also, keep in mind nobody uses the Z identity gauge. Never ever press it. It is a huge waste. Lastly, I won't cover DPS Paladin. As always, thanks again guys. Bye!